Middleware is used in Express applications all the time, and is generally used for pulling out things like if a user is authenticated or checking to see if there's errors in an input. Let's check out how we can use Express middleware and kind of slim down our request callback functions. How's it going, everyone? I'm Kylan, and here I like to make programming fun and easy to understand, so if that sounds enjoyable to you, consider subscribing, and let's get right into it. So Express middleware is used in between the request and the response, and it's generally defined in its own separate function, which has access to the request and the response objects. So if we want to create our own middleware function, all we have to do is say function, and let's say we want to check if the user is authenticated. So we'll say is authenticated, and we'll just create curly braces like that, just like a normal function declaration. And this is going to take in the request, the response, and it's going to take in a next function. That next function, we'll get to that here in just a sec, but let's just go ahead and say console.log user is authenticated. And generally here you would do some kind of checking on the request if the request has a user or if the current session has a user. But we're just going to go ahead and console.log that. And now whenever we create a middleware function, we always need to call this next function. And what this next function does is it just tells Express, okay, we're done with this middleware, go on to the next one, and it'll cycle through to the next middleware. So now that we've defined our Express middleware function, now we need to call it. And the way that we call it is going to be inside the get function. It's going to be called right after the route declaration, but before the callback function. So it's going to be called right here. So let's go ahead and say is authenticated, and we just need to make sure there's a comma after that, so it's comma separated. And if we save that, and we over here and refresh, we don't see any changes over here. But if we look at the console, we can see user is authenticated, which came directly from this console log here. Then the next function was called, and it went from this function call to the callback function, which it then logged, this is the home route, and then it sent back, hello there, back to the browser. So let's now take a look at a more realistic example. So here I've got a basic form with a username and a password field, and it's sending a post request to /login. And the only thing that we have to find on here is the request callback. So let's create a middleware to check to make sure that all of the fields that have been entered are not empty. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to go up here, right underneath our is authenticated function, and we're going to define another function, and we're going to call it check inputs, and we're going to pass in our request, our response, and our next function. And then inside of here, we're going to get our request.body, and we're going to go ahead and save that into a variable called data. And now we're going to check if data.username, and we're going to negate that. So if we do not have a data.username, then we're going to return res.redirect, and we're just going to redirect to / just like that. That's the home route, this route that we're currently on right now. And we're also going to check if no data.password. If we don't have a password, we're going to return res.redirect to / as well. And if we get past those and everything checks out perfectly fine, we're just going to call our next function here, just like that. And now we'll go ahead and come down here and we'll call our function. So we're going to say check inputs. I'm going to put a comma there. We'll go ahead and save that. Let's go over here and we'll put a values in these fields here, and we'll click submit. And now you can see it has gone through and we have logged in successfully. Now this isn't a actual login. This is just showing how you can check or verify input fields. So if we do that and we hit submit, we're going to get redirected right back here. So if I don't put in a username and I type something into a password, I hit submit, it's going to redirect us back here. But if I type in something for both of them, we hit submit, we get you are logged in now. Just one last tip before I go. If you have a lot of middleware that is being called over and over again on many different routes and it's all the same middleware, you can use a small trick where you save the middleware definitions inside of an array, just like this, and then you can go ahead and spread that array just like this. So we could say new login checks. You can go ahead and spread that array into where the middleware would go. And if we go ahead and refresh here and we submit, you can see it works perfectly fine. And if we go over here to our console, we can see that user was authenticated, the home route, and this was logged to the console as well. So everything works as intended whenever you spread middleware into a route like this. So that will save you a lot of space and a lot of duplicated code if you have a lot of middleware that you need to pass into a lot of different routes. Just make sure that you're using all of the middleware that's in the routes before you define it inside of an array. And that's it for Express Middleware. If you did like the video, make sure you slap a like on it. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.